Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Zephcast. I am your host, Zephyr. I'm with my awesome friend, King Fink, aka Matt. Super excited to have you, my man. How you doing today?
Dude, man, I'm doing good. I'm honored to be here, man. I'm honored to be, in your podcast, and honestly been looking forward to this all week, not gonna lie.
Dude, hell yeah. Thank you seriously so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out and just chat about streaming, just anything we kind of start rambling on about. Not super formal or nothing, literally just a hangout sesh, just chilling and chatting about whatever.
Cool.
So
fast and loose. I like it.
First question I've been dying to ask you, King. If you had to eat one meal every day for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh. All right. Ooh. Got to channel my brain power for this one.
I will cheers to the brain power.
Yes, cheers.
Got the apple juice ready?
Man, one meal, huh? For the rest of your life. Man, that's easy to say, but hard to answer. Dude, I don't know.
I feel like most you'd kind of want to go something yummy like a pizza or burger or something, but that's so unhealthy too.
It's dangerous, man. It's dangerous because, if you eat it every day, man, you're gonna get to a point where you're not gonna like pizza as much.
Right. You're gonna start crying when you look at it like, why do I have to do this?
Pizza again.
What about like different kinds of pizzas though? Would that, or maybe sandwiches or salads?
If it was like one solid like family of foods, but maybe different flavors, that would be maybe easier to choose from. But if you, one food for the rest of your life, dude, I'm just gonna say pizza. I'm just gonna say pizza.
Dude, pizza's an easy answer. Pizza's so good. Like I don't trust people if they don't like pizza. I'm like, wait a minute,
dude.
That is automatic sus.
Totally sus.
So, kind of real first question. Who is King Fink? Who are you? What are you about? Let us know who the real King Fink is. Will you please stand up? Right.
Yeah, man, this is this is one of the questions where, you kind of anticipate, being on like a podcast or maybe in a more formal situation, like an interview, who are you? And, ever since I was in school, it's been tough for me to kind of try and find the words, to describe, I guess, who I am. I grew up in I'll say it was a Mormon household. It was not very strict Mormonism though. It was more like, my parents went to LDS church, and I was kind of brought into that growing up. They would always have home teachers come by, weekly, and kind of just to teach us about scriptures and things like that.
Missionaries.
So I was missionaries. It was a lot of the time it was like one main like home teacher that was local in our ward, and then it was a missionary that was from another state or from another country. So like that was pretty cool. I was really young, so I didn't really know what I was listening to or what I was consciously. I didn't know what I was doing really. Like I just kind of went to church. I kind of went to, what is it? Not Bible camp, but I guess it would kind of be like Bible camp, right? But like, I don't know, for LDS.
Sure.
So I was brought up that way, but my parents weren't very Mormon. Like my dad and my mom would always drink coffee, and smoke cigarettes. they would swear every now and again. And it was kind of strange, kind of strange going to church and coming home and not really practicing what we learned. Yeah. And, as years went on, I kind of, formed my own kind of beliefs and things like that. And we kind of, my family and I kind of not like intentionally distance ourselves from the Mormon church, but just stopped going as much, stopped going to like the trunk or treats and Halloween and things like that, and then it was when I was in, I think, 7th grade, getting a little bit real here.
No, go for it.
My parents,
absolutely.
Yeah, parents, unfortunately, got separated. My mom moved away. It was a really kind of a weird time where, you're in 7th grade, you're in middle school, and something like that happening is just kind of an intense thing, to happen at kind of a weird age. But that kind of was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. It really helped me and my dad kind of grow closer. Because I was always a mama's boy growing up, and so that was kind of nice. Like I said, kind of a blessing in disguise. But that's about the age too where I started kind of really getting into music and just listening to music, wanting to play music. And so from about then, from about 7th grade on until maybe about 10 years ago, I was really involved in kind of like the local music scene, in our city. Joining bands, which seemed like, every other month I was in a new band in middle school, just like a crappy garage band.
Yeah.
And, we'd always like somewhat fantasize about playing gigs and going to a studio and recording an album or a demo, and playing in front of people, and that was kind of our like a dream, I guess. It was kind of, in our minds, it was a little unattainable. A little bit of an unattainable goal at the time, just being so young and being so fresh and new to these instruments. But that didn't really stop me. So I kept practicing every day. I kept doing my thing, and eventually I got myself into this situation where it was like one of the local bands that I'm kind of looking up to at that certain time. Some of the members dispersed from the band and started wanting to form their own project. And this was MySpace days, man. So like, I remember seeing a bulletin go out on my MySpace page about one of the members wanting to, start jamming with people and maybe start a band. And I was like, okay, I've been through this however many times before. This isn't anything new to me, so I'll go there. It was a little intimidating because it was somebody I looked up to, and here I am, just this young kid, going and auditioning basically for this band that I didn't know I would be in for the next 5 years or so, and one thing led to another, and we started really writing music and really getting a feel for each other, like musical chemistry type of thing, and things kind of snowballed from there, and we started playing shows. We started, recording demos in like a legitimate, what felt like a legitimate studio, to us. It, big like producers in LA, those are like way out of our league.
Sure,
but for
right.
Spokane, such like a small city, like, it was awesome. It was awesome. And the sound that came out of there, was amazing, and, until about 2011, maybe 2010, I was playing shows, recording, music, all this and that. And then it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, This is like a make it or break it thing for me personally. You know, we're playing shows, we're doing all this cool stuff, but it's like, you know, I had to really step back and look at it from a bigger perspective rather than just at the small local level. You know, we were really, you know, not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but we really were one of the more popular bands in our city. But on a scale, you know, as a county, as a state, as a country, you know, we were just a needle in the haystack, you know. And it was kind of at that point where I was like, okay, I've either got to really commit 100% and just go for it, you know, being on the road for weeks at a time type of thing, being away from family and friends, pretty much saying goodbye to like a stable, you know, relationship with a loved one. And I, you know, sadly made the choice to make my leave from the band, got a haircut, you know, chopped off all my hair, and, you know, got a 9 to 5, you know. And it was a weird thing. It was a weird decision to make, doing something for so long and then doing a complete 180 and not doing it, you know, not going to band practice 3 days a week, not playing gigs several times a month, to waking up in the morning, putting on my, you know, button-up dress shirt and clocking on to a job for the next 8.5 hours. You know, it was really weird. It was really weird. Yeah. You know, so that, I guess, to circle back to your original question, I guess that's who I am, you know.
Dude, that's a cool entirety story. It's really crazy hearing so much of that and just relating to so much of it, because I don't think I've really told anyone like online before, but like literally your whole entire childhood, like I grew up in the Mormon church. I grew up in southern Utah, so everyone around us was Mormon, family was Mormon, went to church every weekend, had missionaries stop by and everything. So I relate a lot to that. And then like right at 7th grade started getting into guitar and then piano and saxophone and just played in some bands. You know, there was one guy I had like he was incredible saxophonist. He's like doing like a lot of shows with some big artists in Utah now, but he plays like bass and saxophone, and him and I just had a really good musical chemistry. And so everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm just even further convinced we're like brothers separated at birth. I swear. And for anybody that's, I guess, watching that doesn't know this, you know, you and I share the same birthday. We do. You know, different year, but you know, same month and day. Right. It's pretty wild, because like I was telling like pretty much everyone I've had on the podcast, I've told them like it's so cool actually talking like in real time with people that I feel like I've known for, you know, the whole past year, because like we've never really like one-on-one talked, aside maybe from Mario Kart like once or twice before. And then we're all just swearing at ice beams. Seriously, oh my god, the dude is a legend. He is. At Mario Kart. That's so insane. But this is like the first time I've ever I guess like video chatted with somebody. It's cool. It's very like nervous, anxious, but fun and exciting, and like I'm just all about trying to make, you know, have it as chill and conversational. Like I definitely don't want any of this to ever feel like for you, for everybody in the future, like don't ever want this to feel like an interview. Just more like we're just conversating, drinking, just chatting is the best game in the world, hands down. But dude, did you play bass most of the time through your bands you were in?
Not at all. No, not at all. Well, okay, that's a lie. So from when I was in, I'm trying to remember. I think seventh grade. I remember having one of my buddies come over that I knew from elementary school, and we just, one day went to the mall. He was just like coming over to spend the night or something, and we went into this, I think it was Sam Goody or something. It was like a music store, just like with albums and things like that, and
records.
And in the in the back of the store there was a kind of a teach yourself how to play guitar, and it was featuring Metallica, and so it was like, dude, okay, tonight marks the night that I will be playing guitar, like learning to play guitar. And all I had was a like this old classical guitar that my dad had, and the strings were so like rough and so hard to push down, and trying to learn Metallica on a classical guitar, was pretty intense. But but no, I played electric guitar through the whole band thing. Like, I helped out with bass every now and again, but it was always 6-string guitar.
Dude, hell yeah. Did you do like rhythm guitar a lot, or like some lead guitar, like solos and stuff?
Kind of a little bit of both. It was when we were in the band, the other guitarist and I didn't want the label lead guitarist and rhythm guitarist, because it kind of felt like one was better than the other, which isn't supposed to feel that way, but it does. It does. So we just we kind of shared the roles. If one of us came up with an awesome melody, or awesome lead part, we would try to like work with each other to make like the next part or the next verse or breakdown or whatever have a cool lead part for the other person. So we were kind of like bouncing between rhythm and lead, and it was fun. It was good. I think it was a good call to kind of share the roles that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like the one big band I was in, like when I was in high school, we had two. I was the lead guitar player, and then he was the rhythm guitar player. Because like he just always preferred that I did the solos, and I love the solo. Like, improvisation is like my favorite thing in the entire world. But yeah, the same exact thing. Like, we would just bounce ideas off of each other, and I came from the like metal and classic rock side. Like, I love Metallica. I like Metallica. I remember learning guitar, and my dad told me, he's like, if you can learn to play Master of Puppets, you have mastered the guitar. Like, that was it. And of course, like, no, there's like so many more difficult things and crazier things out there aside from that, but that is a pretty intense song. But yeah, he came from more of the like alternative, like kind of like, even Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance stuff. So the two of us coming together was so different, but so cool, because we like both kind of grew an appreciation for that style of music, and his was a lot more usually like melody driven in some sense, and mine was usually like power chords.
Yes.
But dude, I feel like I've known you my whole life, King.
my brother.
Exactly. Dude, Metallica's awesome. Metallica on a classical guitar, like, that would be pretty intense.
Yeah, it was rough trying to learn.
One of my favorite things about another band that I love is called Megadeth. I'm sure you know who Megadeth is.
Oh
yeah. They do a lot of that stuff too, where like the two guitar players, like Dave Mustaine, and then like their other guitar solo, or their guitarist, they'll like swap solos with each other, and you can like hear in the music when one of them's like, one has a very distinctive solo sound and the other is like doing some crazy stuff. Did you and your guitar player kind of have like very different styles, you think?
Maybe a little bit of different styles, but the thing that looking back now, the thing that really separated us was our I kind of almost hate saying this, but was our like guitar tone or guitar sound.
That's a big thing.
Dude, like, I remember saving my pennies, any birthday money, any holiday money that I would get, I would just save all of it, because we were using line 6, just straight digital amps, trying to crank those to 10 doesn't work too well.
No, the gain all the way to 10.
Yeah,
we all did it though. It's okay.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Sorry.
But no, you're fine, man. You're fine. I saved my pennies and got a tube amp, a proper tube amp, and that was like the big like, oh, okay, this is what we should sound like.
Yeah.
This is what like
The warm sound.
Dude,
the
like
round
I can't.
sound.
Yeah, I remember explaining it this way, but as soon as I swapped over to a tube amp, it's like my guitar grew a pair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no joke, the sound was so full and warm and just like literally filled the room. You know, you could feel the bass, the low end in the guitar, and man, yeah, that was.
I was the same. I had like a digital amp that was like kind of my first beginner amp, and then I remember the band and I went on stage, played for, I think it was Battle of the Bands, and this is just a little practice amp on like a big stage, and I had it turned all the way to 10, and I blew the amp. So after that, my mom and dad they were like, you need a new amp. So my dad bought me like a huge half stack Marshall amp. And in my room, I had to turn it to like less than 1 or it would shake the room. And amps like that, you need to turn it to like 7 or 8 or 9 to really warm it up and get the tone going. But I'm just like this little crappy sounding, like barely audible, but it's like shaking the walls. Yeah. But
that's good, man. That's good.
Marshalls are awesome. They're cool amps. I kind of wish we still had it, but I mean, I don't know where it would fit. I'm sure my neighbors would love hearing that.
Oh man, I'm in the same boat as you. Yeah, it's like we have like no room for, like, I just have a tiny, probably like similar to what you had, just a small Line 6 practice amp, you know, and trying to think of like a half stack in here.
It's like it could fit, but you wouldn't really be able to use it. Hi, Ellie. Dude, that's so cool. Like how much you play music and everything. So like, I feel like I always thought you were like primarily a bass player, because I think you played bass on stream a couple times.
Yeah. Like I always wanted to kind of get a bass and mess around on it, you know, and I think I finally pulled the trigger and bought one last year or the year before. And it's sad to say, but I'm not playing like guitar as much as I used to, you know. I've been playing more bass lately, and it's fun, man. It's fun just to, you know, throw on some headphones and just, you know, feel it. You feel it, you know, and it's good, man. I really enjoy bass, but I think my heart will always be with guitar.
Yeah. Dude, I'm the same way. Like I've never had a bass. I've always wanted a bass. Every time I go to Guitar Center, like I always go to the basses and just start playing them. But it's like so
Dude, they're
different.
So fun.
They are. I feel like when growing up, I always wanted to be the guitar solo. But now, like as I've gotten older, like the appreciation for like rhythm guitar, you know, the appreciation for bass. Like I never thought I'd ever want to learn drums, but it was listening to. Sorry, what were we gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, man, same here. Like drums, like never really appealed to me, but I would love an electric drum set.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, probably electric, so the neighbors don't hate you.
Exactly.
I was listening to Tool's new album. I'd never been a big Tool fan. I've never kind of got why people love Tool so much. And my coworker was like, Tool just released a new album. You got to listen to it. And so I listened to it, and just right away, the first thing I thought of was the drums. And I'm like, I've never wanted to play drums before, but this really makes me want to learn to play drums. Like, insane. But totally off total. I don't even know where we're going with that, but just like music's amazing. Music's amazing, dude. Have you ever thought about doing like any music streams, or maybe playing music on stream at all?
Yeah, so I've done Rocksmith on stream, and that's kind of like, I don't know, it's not really like performing, you know, but it kind of gives you the same feeling, you know, like having people watch you while you're playing an instrument. But it's just like Guitar Hero or Rock Band.
Is it like Guitar Hero but with tab coming at you? Like, how would you? I've never
kind
seen
of.
it before, really.
Yeah, so it's essentially, it shows you like a quadrant of the guitar neck. Like it'll show frets like 1 through 6, let's say.
Okay.
And then you'll see like the notes coming down the way there, just like Guitar Hero.
Okay.
And then for like solo, you'll see like the game like focus up on like frets 12 through like 15 or 17 or whatever.
Gotcha.
And just kind of play, just like kind of like a hybrid between tabs and Guitar Hero. I think that's a good way to put it.
I'm intrigued. I kind of want to check it out.
You should.
I've always like super struggled with reading tabs. Like I never really got into reading tabs too much, just because like I would always pick everything up by ear. So that'd be fun. That would be sorry, Ellie, what are you doing? She's being like extra loving right now. You want to say hi to King?
It's special guest.
Pretty much.
Hey, Ellie.
She's been like the podcast pup, the past few times. She likes to hang out.
Pupper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know Zach's done a couple like guitar and singing kind of streams. Do you think you'd ever kind of want to go down that avenue? Like live performing?
I think I would. Oh my gosh, dude. I would need to practice a lot. And kind of overcome like the fear of performing live again, I don't know. That would be fun. That would be very fun and interesting. Even throw on like a backing track and just, jam, Dude,
hell yeah. Do you do like a lot of like improvisation or like any kind of like jazz stuff by any chance?
When I do, like I said, I kind of play sparingly now. It sucks. I do want to like play more and more, but
the
between
adult
like
life.
work and everything, it's just like, oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like I have my effect pedal rack, right here.
Wah wah pedal.
It's got the Digitech whammy pedal. I do have a loop pedal in the back there by Boss, and man, I can't tell you how fun it is to like look up tabs or something, where there's two different guitar parts. I think I have a loop on there saved of Cosmo Canyon, like the Cosmo Canyon theme song, and just like tapping the strings to get the bass sound or the drum sound, and using the Digitech to lower the octave to simulate a bass. And it's fun to like make one layer and then replay it and then add to it and then add to it and add to it and add to it, and it's a blast. It's seriously a blast.
I've never got too big into like looping or anything, but I've seen like Ed Sheeran do some live performances on like acoustic guitar, and he just blows my mind with stuff like that.
Phenomenal. It's phenomenal, man.
That's like a whole other level, I feel like, of talent. Like it's one thing to just like pick up an instrument and just kind of doodle around or whatever, but like when you can when you can add like this percussive kind of element to it, and then the bass, and then some chords, and then a melody on it, it's just, that stuff blows my mind, dude.
Yeah, for real, man.
One of the things I loved talking to Zach about is he was saying he was kind of trying to transition his streams a little bit from like just gaming content to more like IRL stuff and kind of like hiking stuff, which I really, really like. And we had a good conversation about how like I really think Twitch is, so many people associate Twitch with just gaming, but really it's just like a live streaming platform to do whatever you want to do with it. Do you kind of see yourself kind of going more towards stuff outside of just gaming content on Twitch?
I mean, it's hard. Like for me, I don't like have the, okay, I guess if I was set up with all the equipment to kind of do like live streaming outside of here, outside of this room, like that would be kind of cool, maybe some like hiking streams, given that you have service and things. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe not so much IRL things, but kind of like you said, maybe more music streams, or more just like, I wish there was a category in Twitch, instead of like maybe not instead of, but in addition to just chatting, there should be a just chilling stream or just chilling category. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
We pretty much just hang back and just, what would that be like? Just listen to music and
yeah, I guess just listen to music and quietly talk about something
like
nice.
a coffee shop. We need like a coffee shop section. Dude,
that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Dude, that'd be cool. And we can all have drinks together and talk about aliens and the meaning of life and all sorts of
right
big crazy topics like that. Dude, we were having like some insane conversations. Do you remember a few weeks ago about like the simulation theory and everything on your stream?
Oh, the VR stream?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I remember that. Oh yeah.
That was one of my questions I really wanted to ask. How in the world, for anybody that doesn't know, King Fink does like insanely cool VR gaming streams where he's like playing games within a game. It's really cool. How do you do all that? Like, how does that all get put together?
So it's it's kind of like, I won't call it a game, but I'll just call it like a program or utility where you kind of compile all these different systems together. You get the games in a very legal way, right?
Right, of course.
Not emulation, right?
Not emulation.
You get the like the covers for the box art. You get the all the system files and everything you need. You compile it all into this utility, and you either launch it in VR mode or desktop mode, and it plops you into a bedroom and lets you kind of design a bedroom how you see fit, so you can put like
Posters,
TVs stacked on TVs and posters, and you can even change like the blanket on the bed and the pattern on the pillow. And it gets pretty intense. There's a lot of customization with it, but it's there's such a weird, surreal feeling about being in VR in a room and going up to a PlayStation and like popping open the disc cover, taking the disc out, putting a new one in, and like closing the lid. Right. Oh man, there's something just insanely wild about that. I will say it is very, very cool indeed. However, I don't think I could ever spend more than about an hour or 2 hours in there playing a game within a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
a little weird.
Oh, the strain on the eyes and a little uncomfortable, and you've got headphones on, you got, a headset on, you've got your controller, and if you're streaming, you have a mic in front of you type of thing. So it's like you're really bound and it's not very free feeling.
Right.
But it is very fun. It is very fun though. Because
I guess if you probably want to play a game, you're probably just going to be as comfy and chill and relaxed as possible,
Yeah.
Whereas within that, it's just more of like an element to the entirety of it.
Yeah. Not really like a serious, like you want to get down and play a couple hours of this and really progress, but you kind of want to just like maybe mess around with a little bit, have, a bunch of systems going at the same time. And, just kind of more fun than anything, I guess, which I guess is really what gaming and doing things like that's all about,
Absolutely.
It's just having fun.
Absolutely. Honestly, that's been like the best part about streaming is just like trying to have fun with it, and especially like meeting really cool friends and like building relationships. And do you kind of feel similar with like your whole process through streaming, kind of like how it's been going, the past year? Like what has been like some of the big highlights for you through streaming?
Yeah, so it's been quite the journey. I've only been streaming a year or a little, maybe a couple months more than a year. And I guess I never really thought I would be streaming, and I never really thought I would be here, like in this type of situation, talking to like, of course, like you, but like anybody that I've met from streaming, and have it be such an impactful part of my life. Like when I first started streaming, like gosh, let me see. This was
April, May. It was Final Fantasy VIII, right?
Well, see, I actually streamed a little bit before that.
Okay.
I streamed, yeah, it was, so I streamed Final Fantasy IX, but at the time, like, I kind of got into streaming then because I wanted to, play some games, maybe make a little bit of cash on the side, but then the big reality check came in where it was like, well, nobody's chatting in chat, nobody's really watching, so that's not really a goal that I want to try and go for at that time. I remember my first chat message I got while I was streaming was a bot, and I was so invested in chatting with this bot, and when I kind of like looked more into it, I was just like, oh, okay, that's okay.
Oh no.
So I was just like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, and I just kind of was like, I'll just watch. I'll just watch Twitch, and then kind of came across a couple people, you being one of them, actually, Zeph, and I was just at the time looking for something to watch, somebody to watch play a game that I really really love, and I think it was partly watching you play Final Fantasy VIII and really having a really positive experience interacting with people who are interacting with you playing this game, and just seeing how much fun that you were having, so between that and watching, a couple other of my, buddies kind of do the same thing, interact with people, very positively, and getting that same interaction back. I think you and I and a lot of other people, when they first start streaming or get on some sort of platform like Twitch or YouTube, that the community that's already established on that platform is going to be just mean and toxic and very unwelcoming.
That's the perception, right?
That was my perception, when I first started. It's just like, oh god, okay, like I don't even want to stream because people are going to come in and tell me how bad I am, and that's not the case. That is, sure, you'll get those those people that come in and either want to poke fun at you for the laughs or whatever, and you just kind of have to gloss over those. But I'll say probably 90%, 95% of the interactions that I've had on Twitch has been kind of caught me by surprise, as far as like initially thinking that Twitch is going to be full of bullies. You know what I mean? And if I could go back in time and tell myself something from a year ago, I think that's probably the biggest thing I would tell myself is, not to really worry about that type of stuff, and just do what you like to do. And people that also, like what you like, and, like your cadence and your attitude towards them, will interact with you and keep coming back, and interacting with you. And I think that's, it's really fun. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
no, I think we're just kind of going off on like what got you started in streaming and everything. No, literally everything you said, I completely relate to. A big thing I was kind of nervous about with streaming as well was like thinking there was going to be a lot of trolls or very negative people. Same exact thing you were saying. And I've just learned like 95% of people are really, really cool, really positive. They're there to have a good time, to make new friends, to just hang out, watch fun games. It almost feels like two people want to be friends, but the way they find each other is the game that you're playing. That kind of is like what brings two people together. So no, I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree 1,000%. I think that's very telling about a lot of people, like especially in nowadays where there's so much polarization and just anger and just hate out there, like in the world.
Yeah.
I feel
right.
I feel like people are really you know, there's a lot more good, and there's a lot more that we all kind of relate to, and we have a lot more in common than, you know, a lot of people, you know, kind of realize.
I think so too. Yeah, I totally agree with that. 100%.
I think Twitch is a pretty awesome platform, and I think, you know, I definitely think YouTube in terms of streaming, there's a lot of, you know, maybe better aspects of YouTube, you know, for a lot of streaming on that platform. But I think really what brings people to Twitch and what keeps people streaming on Twitch really is the community. You know, people like,
yeah,
love
definitely
the community, and like whatever community you're in, it could be in Minecraft or Souls or Final Fantasy or, you know, Fortnite or whatever. But like each of those pockets have people in it that people love, people are excited to see every day. And it really totally feels, every time I'm streaming, every time you're streaming, every time we pop in like friends streams, like it's like a bunch of friends hanging out throughout the day, and you're just like, yo King, what's going on? How's your day? How's work? How's life? What's new?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I feel that, especially when, like, you know, somebody that you talk to daily, you know, you both end up like watching the same person, you know, and you see somebody, you know, pop in the chat, and you're like, you know, Zach or Zeph or whoever, you know, it's just like, holy shit, like this is more than just for gaming. You know, even if you're doing it, you know, even if you're doing like art streams or music streams or whatever, it's totally more than that. And I think people don't maybe recognize that enough, where Twitch is a really, really good platform for like mental health and, you know, talking to other people, especially in this kind of like weird isolation period in history, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, I think if people wanted to like play music or play games or whatever, and just record it and just have it be about the music or just have it be about the art, they would just record it and then put it on YouTube or something. That's where Twitch comes in. Like Twitch is all about, you know, bringing chat, bringing the streamer together through whatever medium, whether that's music or a game or just chatting or whatever. So I 1,000%.
Yeah, agree. And it's like, you know, if I want to play a game, you know, I could just go chill on the couch in my undies and play a game.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's more than that. It's I want to play a game with other people type of thing. I want to play with whoever wants to come in and watch and talk with me. That's why I'm here. You know, that's why I hit go live, you know, and that's why I keep hitting go live. And you know what I mean? It's, you know, I could game in the living room if I wanted to, but I want a game here in front of people, you know, in front of friends. Right.
And do you feel kind of like, just random question off the top of my head I thought of, do you feel like you gravitate towards people playing a game that you have just finished completing, or a game like you love, like Final Fantasy 8 we were talking about earlier? Or do you ever kind of look like, I've never played X game, let me go check it out, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Zeph. I think the first 2 points that you touched on, I think I do that every now and again. I remember beating Earthbound, and the next day going and looking up Earthbound streamers because I couldn't get enough. I wanted to watch somebody relive what I just did, type of thing. I think I did that with Final Fantasy 6 also.
Dude, yeah.
You know, or I'll do that with like games that I really like and enjoy, like Final Fantasy 8. You know, it's how I, you know, stumbled upon yours just in the browsing section of Twitch, you know. But for the last point that you mentioned, watching streamers for games that I haven't played or that maybe I'm interested in playing, I think most of the time, if I'm interested in something, I will just watch it on YouTube or watch a review on YouTube.
Dude,
you know,
I was literally gonna say the exact same thing.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's spoilers that I want to avoid, or if it's a biased opinion that I want to avoid. Like if it's their favorite game type of thing, you know. I don't know. I think, like I said, the first two things you had mentioned, watching for games you really enjoy and games that you have just recently finished, both check marks for me there. Yeah. How about you?
I definitely agree. I find myself doing the exact same thing. Like when I finished Bloodborne, first thing I did afterwards was watch like all the story stuff on YouTube, because nobody understands the story unless you watch the YouTube videos. But yeah, same going on Twitch, finding people doing like first playthroughs of Bloodborne or first playthroughs of like Last of Us Part 2 or whatever game I just finished. And then there's also that other section of like my games that I like love to my soul, like of course Final Fantasy 7, like that's my heart and soul right there. Like I'll always like, that is a category on Twitch I will always follow just to see people's first time playthroughs of it. And
for real, man, me too.
But yeah, I feel like games like maybe a brand new game that just came out, or a game I'm like, I've been kind of thinking about that one. I usually feel like I go to YouTube as well. Maybe just look up reviews or look up like highlights. Maybe not highlights because you don't want spoilers. But
right.
Dude, I wonder how many other people do that now.
I know. Now you got me thinking. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask everybody that.
Right.
So one question I did want to ask, I think I already kind of know, but like, what's the longest you've ever streamed? I know you've done a 24-hour stream, right?
Yeah. So it was my first affiliated stream.
Yes.
I wanted to give back, to the people who kind of got me there. So, I wanted to just do a marathon, and I think when I ended, I think it was just over 24 hours. My VOD was like split into 3 because of OBS crashing.
Oh yeah, I remember.
But the daily summary at the very end was like 24 hours and some odd minutes. And so that's the longest I've done.
You're gonna like remember that forever, right? The 24 hours.
Probably, man. Probably. Yeah, that was definitely like one of the biggest highlights, I think, of my whole like Twitch legacy. So far.
Oh man, even my my like 12-hour I did a week ago, dude, that I was like 8 hours in, and I'm just like, oh my god, we got to do 4 more hours of this.
Dude, I know what you mean. Sometimes, like, I don't know, it's weird. Like sometimes I'll be going for 4 hours, and it's just like, man, I'm having a blast. Let's keep this up, and sometimes it's like I get an hour in and it's just like, oh,
I don't know about this.
It's not that I don't want to stream. It's just like maybe I don't have the energy or the right mindset or the right attitude at the time, but yeah.
It's sometimes channeling that energy or finding that energy to start streaming is really hard. So I totally agree. I guess I'm kind of fortunate just because I usually stream bright early in the morning, so coffee just immediately hits me, and it's just like, this will kind of do. We'll make it work with this.
Definitely, yeah.
24-hour stream, dude. I can't even imagine. Zach's done a 24. Rayman's, dude. Ice Beams. Actually, everyone I've had on the podcast has done a 24-hour. Oh my god, I'm just realizing that. It's
your turn, man.
Oh.
Have you ever thought of doing a 24-hour, or would you ever do one?
The only time I would probably potentially maybe do one would probably be like a partner stream, like if we had partner.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. That's a
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say, I do want to do the 12-hour charity streams once a month. I want to set a goal for myself to do that once every month for like a different charity, something that's like related to the month. I haven't announced or talked to anybody about it yet, but I know this is like Autism Awareness Month, so I do want to do a charity at the end of the month to raise awareness for autism for like a really cool charity. So something like that.
That's awesome.
Dude, charity streams are so much fun. There's so much hype.
Yeah. You've actually kind of inspired me a little bit, not to necessarily do like charity streams. I think, I don't know, for me, it feels like, I don't stream enough to kind of and I know it doesn't like matter in the end how much money you pull for for charity, but I feel like I don't stream enough to really pull in a ton of people to do that. But
not true. We will get you there.
I know, but I haven't said anything yet, so I think this will come out in like what, a week or two or so.
Yeah, about 10 days from now, next Saturday.
Cool. Okay, so by then it shouldn't be like a secret or anything, but I've actually and it's nothing over the top or crazy good or anything, but through the Stream Elements website you can actually like open a merch store and kind of get merch generated, and right now I have a mug, a shirt, a hoodie, tank top, all this like cool stuff, and you can adjust like the pricing and things on it to where you get like very minimal profit, and that's kind of where mine is sitting right now. But I think I'm going to maybe every 2 or 3 months or just whenever we get anything in that kind of pool of money from people buying merch, I think I'm just going to push that all towards charity. I don't think I'm going to even take anything, because it's, I don't know, I want to give back more than just streaming or doing funny things, with channel points. I want to do like something good, for people. So
hell yeah, dude, that is super, super cool. I literally, when you were talking, right when you said merch, I'm like, Annie and Oliver mugs, coffee mugs.
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
I can't wait for you to see it.
I'm so excited. I think that's super cool, man, especially like putting it towards charity. I love when I talk to people and they think of YouTube or Twitch or these like platforms as a way to do good and to give back to maybe those less fortunate or maybe those that are in a more difficult circumstance. So dude, hearing that is really, really, really cool, King. Oh yeah, and I'm excited for the bugs, man.
Oh yeah.
So on the when we were talking about the 24-hour stream, I know you had mentioned like you pretty much just played Final Fantasy VII, a randomized version of it, right? From start to finish, that was pretty much the 24.
Yeah, that was my intention. But dude, with that randomizer, there was so many like soft locks and crashes that happened.
Yeah.
I think my save file at the end of the stream was only 15 hours.
Ooh.
So that means, right, that I must have spent 8 to 9 hours troubleshooting during the night, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
You got to Rocket Town, right?
Yeah, I just got the tiny Bronco, and then I parked it, saved it, I quit, and I haven't been back to that save file since.
You're like, this save file is cursed.
Pretty much, yeah.
Dude, if you were going to do another 24, do you think playing one game from start to finish is the best route, or maybe doing like every 2 or 3 hours play a different game? Or
I think that's probably a better way to go, is to really just mix it up. When you're doing one game for 24 hours, at least me, I got to the point where I didn't really care what was happening in game. I just was mashing X and just kind of trying to get through it, and I think mixing it up a little would probably keep you a little bit more with it, maybe alert during the night. Just I don't know, spicing it up a little bit, I think, is a very smart thing to do during a 24.
Yeah, I kind of realized that like a week ago with the 12-hour, when I was like 8 hours through it, and or 9 hours, and we're still playing Final Fantasy X. And I love Final Fantasy X. It's a great game, but I'm just like, my brain does not want to pay attention to this, or like doesn't care about it. Like, and then when wifey came in and we started doing Animal Crossing, I'm like, oh my god, thank you.
Yeah, please save me.
Please save me. Does Breezy have any interest in jumping into streaming or anything like that? I know she did BioShock for a minute or two, right?
Yeah, she was really really kind of keen on the idea of, because she would see like, Zach and I do it and you do it and I do it. And, all these people that we watch have so much fun,
Yeah.
doing this. And, she wanted to give it a shot, not like it would be like a routine thing, but just to, dip her feet in the water, see how it is. And, she had fun. She had a lot of fun. She said that she was shaking at the end, with excitement. So, I think she did enjoy it, but I think just kind of putting herself out there is a little bit, just made her maybe a little anxious, you know.
I was I saw my buddy Super Murgatroyd post something on Twitter earlier today about something like that. Like every time you press the go live button, like for pretty much everybody, there's probably some sense of anxiety, some more than others, I'm sure. But like you're putting yourself out there for the entire internet to just pop on in, and good, like big things could happen, nothing could happen, and pretty much everything in between.
Right. Well, two things, I have to add to that. Bree's first stream, dude, she hit, okay, I didn't mean to say she hit, she got like 3 or 4 raids. I think her average viewer count was like 11 at the end of her first stream. Nice. And it's just like, that's very, very, very exciting. But as somebody's first stream, I think it might have been a little bit too much like chat overload, you know, and because like everyone over here is all like breezy, you're streaming, and she's like, so much is going on. Yeah, and I remember her saying like keeping up with chat was really, really tough, when it was just like flowing after the raids. It's just like, what do I do? Who do I reply to? And it's like, do I play the game? It's like, what do I do?
Yeah.
But the second thing you had mentioned as far as like feeling nervous or anxious before hitting that go live button, man, I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like I definitely feel that same like weird kind of like ball of nervousness that you have in your chest, and I will say, it is the same type of feeling before you go like out on a music stage.
Just gonna ask that.
Yeah, it's the same feeling, the same like adrenaline, and you're just so like, all right, this is it.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a scary feeling, but a good feeling too.
Yeah, definitely those nerves for sure. Which like, I don't know, people that like can have streamed for years or streamed like a super long time and still consistently do it. I'm sure it's easier, but I don't know. I feel like I don't want to psych myself out from it, but like, when you get like hundreds of viewers or thousands of viewers.
Whoa. Yeah.
Right. That's a whole nother level.
There was just this recent event or something with No Man's Sky. Did you see that?
I think Ziada was doing that, right?
Yeah, and like I don't know if it was just a community thing, but I think Ziada, one of our other close friends, Jan Pretzels.
I know that.
She was. I think they were both hit with like raids of 100, 200 plus people, and for a good week straight, I remember seeing Jan's like viewer count over 200, and she's the type of person who is like maybe 20 or 30 people, and it's just like, holy crap, Jan.
Yeah. And
so excited for her, but you could see like this look on her face just of like excitement, but almost stress, you know what I mean? It's just like there's so many people here, and I can tell even if I don't have my viewer count on, and it's like, man, I don't know how, if I was ever hit with a big raid like that, man, I don't know how I would handle myself,
Yeah. Yeah, it's whenever people get raided, it's so fascinating seeing like how they react, because some people are just like, oh, we got raided, like, hi, welcome in, and other people are like freaking out, and
they freak out. Yeah.
That's one of the best things about Twitch, though, is like everybody's stream is different, every person is different, everybody reacts different. You know, some people like whatever you do, like subs, bits, raids, hosts, like everybody kind of reacts different, which makes it so, I don't know, it makes it really fun to see, you know, the personality.
It does, you know, just yeah, there's so many different streams on Twitch, you know, so many just variety, you know. It's kind of refreshing, not gonna lie, you know.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, like you could jump in one person's stream and, you know, jump in someone else's and someone else's, and, you know, just through like multiple streams you can get all sorts of different vibes, you know, some better, some worse, but
yeah.
Totally just had a brain fart right there. Oh yeah. What I was just gonna ask, because when we're talking about 24-hour streaming, Final Fantasy 7, but kind of similar to that, what's been the best game you have streamed since you've been on Twitch? Is there a particular one where you're like, this was so much fun to play?
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think Earthbound was a really, really fun one. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite game. It's, you know, it's a nostalgic one for sure. Yeah. It has its, you know, it has its cons. It has a ton of pros, obviously, but I think that's the one where, like, I don't know, I just felt like I had the most fun playing. You know, I don't know if it was just the element of chat kind of in that moment of time, that kind of just slice, you know, of time where I was playing that game, or if it was a mix between like chat reacting to the game or reacting to me, or just yeah, I don't know, probably Earthbound.
That's technically Mother 1, right?
I think Mother 2.
Mother 2. Is there Mother 1 and then Earthbound's technically Mother 2, but there is like an actually titled Mother 3, right?
Yeah, Mother 3 is a region exclusive to Japan. And so there's like fan translations, you know, that have come out, and but yeah, Earthbound Beginnings I think is Mother 1, and then Earthbound is Mother 2, and then just Mother 3.
Gotcha,
I think, yeah, Earthbound was Earthbound in the States and Mother 2 in Japan.
Gotcha. I've never played any of them, but they look like they have such a huge fan base behind them. I want to try them one day.
Yeah. You should. You definitely should, man.
They're like, are they JRPGs, kind of like Final Fantasy? I've seen some gameplay and they look really easy, but deceivingly easy, maybe. Deceivingly, maybe.
Yeah. I would say they're like a JRPG with a heavy like Western influence. Like it's totally like one of the main characters' weapons in Earthbound is a baseball bat, you know.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's like very Western cultured, like NPCs and things like that, just the whole atmosphere of the game. So yes, JRPG, but not in the traditional like setting, I guess.
Gotcha. Kind of like what they would think a Western JRPG kind of would be like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Honestly, that's like the best thing is when you see like, I don't know, like other cultures and what they would think Western culture would be like, or my favorite is like when other countries, what they think American culture would be like. And I'm like, you're kind of not wrong, but you're kind of not wrong.
It's so fun to see, like, I don't know, that other like perspective, you know what I mean? It's fun to see.
Dude, I love laughing, like looking in the mirror and laughing at myself, and like
me too.
Like I do not take myself seriously at all. I take what I do seriously. I take, you know, my like position with streaming and creating content, all that super seriously, but like I will be the first to laugh at myself or joke at myself, and I kind of wish more people were like that, you know.
Yeah, I'm there with you, man. Yeah, you got to be able to laugh at yourself, you know. You got to be able to.
Some people take themselves too seriously, especially on Twitch. Sometimes you pop into the chats and you're like, this person is like, they really take themselves seriously.
Yeah.
But that's one of the best things about Twitch is just the variety and everything. Kind of on that with variety, I really have been wanting to ask, can you explain the whole story about the Skyrim chicken kind of thing?
Dude, yeah, I would love to. I would love to explain that.
Do it, go for it.
I know you've never played Skyrim, but for the PC release, you can open up your. It's like a console window that opens up and allows you to like put in cheats and things like that. You know, cheat codes and
like mods.
And so I got this.
Or different than mods.
Kind of different than mods. It's like you can add like 1,000 gold to your pocket or like 500 potions type
cheat
of thing.
Codes.
Yeah, essentially cheat codes.
Yeah.
And I found this program that would watch my Twitch chat for specific commands, and then once it saw that specific command, i.e. ! Cheese, it would pause my game, open up the console, and paste in the command where it would spawn, 200 cheese wheels at my location. And so somebody would type that in, and within seconds, cheese is just exploding out of the ground.
Dude,
and yeah.
Okay.
So that's the story behind that. I think there was
someone typed in
a
chicken
command.
Okay.
Yeah. So
because I think that was your profile picture for a minute, right? No, I think it was your channel trailer. Was it your channel trailer? The little clip
is my
of it?
channel trailer currently. Yep.
I've watched it like maybe really like 20 times, and I was just like, I don't get it, but you don't need to get it to be able to giggle at it, right?
Right. Yep.
Kind of like off that a little bit. Do you like, where do you kind of see Twitch channel and everything, and like where you want to take it within the next 6 to 12 months? Like kind of going down more of maybe music streams, maybe some mods kind of streams.
Yeah, that's a tough question, man. That's a really tough question. Thinking back to like when I was in a band and stuff, I never like considered myself. I mean, obviously I was, I guess still am, but like never really considered myself a musician type of thing. And even like now, I have a hard time considering myself like a content creator, and I'm almost there where I'm like accepting that I'm a streamer. You know what I mean? I never thought I would be a streamer. Like I always, like this past year, like, yeah, I stream, but I guess I'm a streamer now.
You are definitely a streamer.
So to look, to like use my like mind's eye and like look into the future 6 to 12 months, it's like, I don't know, man. These past 6 to 12 months have been so, up and also down. Not gonna lie, there have been some down points with streaming, more up than down, but it's weird to see or to think of what's going to happen in the next 6 months or 8 months or a year or 2 years or 10 years,
right?
You know what I mean? So it's not like I have plans on like quitting or continuing. I think it's just I want to do what I really enjoy and have fun doing it, and if the time comes where it's time to hang up my hat and toss in the towel, then it'll come. But for the foreseeable future, I think it's just really going to be kind of like we mentioned earlier, just kind of like just chilling streams.
Yeah.
Just listening to music, playing some maybe some relaxing games, just, a place where people can come and hang out after work and just leave a lurk and just watch, or listen from the background. And, I don't really want my stream to turn into something where I have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of viewers or 10,000 followers, or like, I think at that point I would really have to reconsider my current like employment, job,
Yeah.
like if I was getting that type of exposure and attention, and especially if I was getting that much where I could consider applying for partner, I would really have to sit down and think to myself and talk with with myself and Bree to kind of like, is this actually going to work? And it's kind of like, do you jump out of the bird's nest knowing that you might not be able to fly? Do you, or do you stay in the nest where it's safe?
Right.
It's hard. It's hard to, I don't know. It's hard to think, and it's hard to know. Well, you don't know, I guess. I guess nobody does know,
Right. Part of that is what's so exciting is jumping out and you might be able to fly and you might be able to make it work, but there's that fear of,
Yeah, definite. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are scared of failure. I think a lot of people are scared of just like trying something different and putting themselves out there and being vulnerable, and it's just not working out,
Yeah, there's a lot to that where people are fearful of not being successful type of thing. And it's, I say if you have any inclination or desire or curiosity about playing in a band or streaming or singing or acting or whatever, I say just do it and try it. The worst thing that can happen is that you say you tried something and it just never, just didn't work out. But I will say those years that I was playing in a band, we may have, never been signed or anything like that, but those were definitely, I will say, the most memorable parts of my entire life, hands down.
Dude,
and
yeah.
I am glad. I'm glad that I did what I did. I'm glad that I played music and everything, in front of, people at gigs and stuff. Even though I'm not now, I am stoked that I did that. So,
do you feel like you could ever do it again part-time maybe and kind of like touch back into it a little bit?
I think it would be extremely different. Yeah, that's tricky. I think it would be different because the genre and the atmosphere and environment that I was playing in was probably how do I say this? Probably isn't something that I would probably return to as I'm getting older. Sure, there's guys, in their 50s and 60s still playing like metal and hardcore, but
Yeah.
very few. You can't get in the mosh pit at 60. I guess some people can. I guess some people could, right?
I mean, I'm sure there's someone who's 70 years old headbanging and going wild.
Dude,
But they're the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. But yeah, I think if I were to ever return, it'd probably just be not on the same scale. I wouldn't want it to be on the same scale, because I feel like that window of opportunity is probably closed for me. But still being able to do that hobby and enjoy myself, that'll never close. You know what I mean? So it's a possibility.
Dude, I think doing some kind of like YouTube stuff would be really cool, honestly. Or using Twitch to like play cover songs, maybe like with you listening to the music and you playing like a bass version or guitar version of the song. I think that'd be
Dude, cool. Yeah. So how about you? You said you were starting to maybe focus a little bit more on YouTube stuff. Have you got anything in the works that, you're comfortable sharing?
I've been working a little bit on some outlines for some video projects that I've been doing. I want to use my YouTube channel to create like content that helps people actually take the steps to be able to live stream, to be able to make like content, essentially giving like tips and tricks and advice on things that I've learned over the past year of streaming, and you know, maybe some good pieces of wisdom that could help some people out. I haven't filmed start to finish, like created a single one yet, but I do have a couple outlines, and that's probably something I'm going to be working on here in the next few days. I guess the Zephcast, like the show, the podcast, I've been doing that. I won't say that's been my primary focus. It's more of like a piece of the pie. But people have been liking them. Like, I got a lot of good feedback from Ryman interview, from Zach. Ice Beams is going to be out in a couple days. Really excited.
Dude, that's exciting. That's exciting.
It's interesting. I feel like I've kind of taken pieces from my life that like I really enjoy doing, like, because I love watching YouTube videos on entrepreneurship and productivity and like creating things. And I love podcasts. I love streaming. It's like everything I'm like really into, I kind of want to like try my own version at. But
no, dude, I think that's really nice. Really good.
I will definitely say, I haven't even told my family yet. But I guess this will be coming out in like a week and a half, but I did put in my 2 weeks. I did put in my 2 weeks today at work. So after 9 years with the same company, I'm finally leaving.
Wow, man.
I'm really nervous.
Well,
really
congrats.
Excited.
Congratulations. You know what? That's good that you're nervous. You know, that's good. You know, it's something that's been a huge part of your daily life for the past, you know, almost decade, dude.
Yeah.
So being nervous, being excited, that's good. That's good.
It's like a whirlwind of emotions, not gonna lie. I like, even coming home today, I'm just like I was telling my wife and everything, and I'm just like, I don't know how to feel. Like, I mean, I'm excited, but just it's so unknown, you know?
Yeah, that feeling of leaving a job where it's like, this is the last time I will be walking out of these doors dressed in this uniform, you know, and it's a weird feeling, you know. I've never been at one job for that amount of time, but there's been a few jobs where it's been kind of hard to leave, you know. And it's not because like it was hard because I loved the job. It was hard because, you know, my coworkers, and you know, just never, the possibility of never seeing them again, you know. It's it can be scary. It can be scary for sure.
It's weird because, like, at least at my current location that I work at, a lot of my coworkers and I kind of don't. Some of us kind of get along, but some of us are just not. You know, we're just there, kind of with each other more so than anything.
You're a team.
Exactly. But it's yeah, I mean, some of these people, you know, I've seen more than I see my wife at home sometimes, see family. You're just it really is like a second family. The culture of the work, it's gonna be weird, but like, I'm very excited to not have to deal with, I work in the telecommunications, like cell phone stuff, so there's a big part of me that's very excited to not have to deal with cell phone stuff anymore, hopefully.
So were you more in sales or like troubleshooting?
I was the person in the store in sales. So like, if you walked in and wanted to pay your bill, or I would have this old phone, want to get a new one, I was the person you talked to. But like, I don't want to at all rag on anything about my job, because like, there's been a lot of good things about it, but my God, there's a lot of things I'm very excited for.
Yeah.
I will definitely say I still am like open to the possibility of getting some like stay or like work at home remote stuff, but I really feel like for at least 6 months, I really want to go full time with Twitch, with YouTube, just dive into it, give it everything I got. Maybe even longer than that. Like, wifey's super supportive, and she's like, you know, if you want to spend a year doing it, because it's like YouTube especially is a very slow growing thing, but once it gets going, once the train starts rolling, like, big things can come from it. So yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm excited.
No, man, that is very exciting, and good on you. Good on you for making that really, really hard life decision, and jumping out of the, proverbial bird nest,
Yeah.
and
Hoping to fly.
taking that chance. Yeah, man. Yeah. And I think, not having the distraction of, okay, I gotta get ready for work in this amount of time. I can only stream for this amount of time. Gotta go to bed at this certain time to be up at this time to go to work at this time.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think with that distraction out of your head, I think you'll be able to focus like, more on what you want to do, so that's, like I said, good on you, man. That's very good.
No, I really appreciate it. It's gonna be so exciting, so nervous. Like I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we got plenty of stuff kind of in the background. Like wifey and I have good savings, really good finances. So like she's gonna still be working. So like money wise, we should be okay. It's just more of it's gonna be like a next chapter, It's gonna be so wild.
Dude, totally. Yeah. Just think you walking out of your store today was the last page in that chapter, to flip over.
Right.
And I was gonna say tomorrow when you wake up it's gonna be a brand new chapter, but I guess maybe in like 2 weeks,
2
right?
weeks, yeah.
After everything's done and over with, type of thing.
I guess it'll be interesting going to work now, just like walking in and be like,
Ooh.
I'm walking on sunshine.
Yeah, man. That will be interesting. I hope they continue to treat you well, and I hope they don't, do whatever, because they're upset that, such an integral part of their team is taken off,
I guess just trying to leave with as good a bridge, not burning anything, just being as positive and like I appreciate the opportunity and you guys have been amazing, trying to be more that way,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's yeah. I think I don't think I've ever left a job where it's like, I cause a bunch of ruckus or chaos right before I leave, and as much as I maybe would have liked to.
Yeah.
It's good to keep those bridges intact.
Right. You never know when you need to call someone, ask for a reference or anything.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
Let's see. So one question I just wrote before we kind of started this, I thought this would be a really good one. What game would cost 1 billion channel points for you to play on stream, aka the worst game for you to play live? Any that come to mind?
Immediately, first thing that comes to mind is Fortnite.
Oh, yes.
I think I would rather play like Barbie Race and Ride or something over Fortnite. I don't know, man. I don't know. To be okay, yeah, probably Fortnite. But 1 million channel points, that's man, I feel like I need to play something worse.
Honestly, I feel I've never played Fortnite, but I feel like the concept of like a battle royale of getting like your friends together in an arena. It's like a death match to the last one standing. I feel like that's a really cool idea. I think it's just more the name, the brand, the community, maybe a Fortnite that kind of gets some people off a little bit.
We'll see when they first like announced Fortnite. This is gonna sound silly, but I was stoked.
Yeah,
I was stoked on it because it was like a kind of like a base, sort of like a base building, kind of tower defense ish
building, right?
Co-op shooter, with your friends. And dude, that sounded really fun. And then I think a few months or maybe like a month or so before the actual release date, they released the BR, the Battle Royale version for free. And I think once that came out, I think Fortnite's main focus was on their Battle Royale rather than their like main game, So I have played Fortnite. I've played like an hour of it, and it really just is not my thing. It's really not my thing, and even more so now. It's just like, yeah, it's it's way back in my priority list.
Do you like the concept of like battle royales, or just like Fortnite specifically, just not into?
Battle royales, I think, are not a bad game type or genre of game. I think there for a while there was a lot of companies coming out with battle royales, and it was kind of like, I feel, kind of a trend to do almost. I've played a couple battle royales, and I mean, they're okay. You know, I think I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of battle royale genres. But yeah, I have played like Fallout 76 kind of has a battle royale game mode. And I've played that, you know, a little bit. PUBG was another one that was kind of big when it first came out. I've played that a little bit with some friends, and it was fun. But it just never latched onto me the way that it did for a lot of people. You know?
Now, what if your favorite game of all time?
Don't say it.
What if they turned that into a battle royale? What did you think of that when you saw that? The Final Fantasy VII battle royale. What is it? First Soldier, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
You're like, who greenlit this?
Yeah. Like the idea of like the first soldier type of thing, like the idea of it, I think is pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool, but oh man, I am so like, I'm gonna just try and block it out from my my memory. I'll probably try it. I'll probably try it, and I'll probably hate it, and probably try it more and more until I like it.
Honestly, when I first saw it, the first thing that popped in my head was like, they were probably trying to create a battle royale game, and they needed something to stick to it that would like get people's attention, like an IP. And what's their most popular IP right now? Probably Final Fantasy VII.
Totally.
I feel like it would have been better just right away. I think it could have been better if it was more just like Final Fantasy the series battle royale versus like Final Fantasy VII. Like if it was like Marlboros over there, or Chocobos or Cactars, you know, and you were still maybe like humans or characters fighting each other doing that thing. But like, I don't know, when I see like Midgar in it, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it would have been cooler if it was just more Final Fantasy-ish rather than just Final Fantasy VII.
I agree. You know, if it was, not revolving around Seven's universe, kind of in a new, maybe not like a whole new fleshed out world, but just
like a generic Final Fantasy.
Ivalice, maybe, you know, Ivalice or something, and you're just riding chocobos around, shooting Marlboros or Cactars or whatever, you know, kind of just like a general Final Fantasy BR rather than Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
BR.
Right. I think that could have been
good
cool.
news though. Ever Crisis, I don't know if you saw it, they're going to be releasing it for free.
Oh, that's the like episodic one, right?
Yeah, kind of the like chibi remake.
Yes. What do you think of that?
Remaster. So when I first saw it, I was super excited because that's kind of the style of remake that I was looking forward to, as far as Final Fantasy VII. You know, it feels a lot closer to the original. And then the addition of like Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core,
Advent Children.
That's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting to see how they rework Advent Children. So all that together, you know, I was very, very excited. I think I was more excited for Ever Crisis than I was for the Yuffie DLC.
Probably same, actually.
Dude, and I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, they're probably going to charge like $30 for each like chapter of the the episodic release or whatever. And then I heard that they're releasing it for free, but getting their revenue from loot boxes. I was kind of torn because of the whole loot box and gambling thing. I'm not super keen on, but dude, I will take a free Final Fantasy VII Chibi remaster any day of the week.
Honestly, I feel like the look of it looks so cool, like the chibi style and everything. I'm so into this. But when I saw the battle system, I was like, I don't know about the battle system. It looks like OG Final Fantasy VII, and then you get in a battle and it's like Final Fantasy VII remake with Crisis Core slot thing. I don't know. It's funky.
That's what has me too. Yeah, and like I know it's just the trailer. But you see Aerith in the party, when you're fighting Guard Scorpion, and it's just like, wait a minute, that's not how this game works.
Right? I think I actually read a translation from the director of it that was talking about there's going to be like battle room simulators essentially where you can bring in like Aerith or Red 13 or Cloud or like Vincent, and then you can battle Guard Scorpion or Ultima Weapon. You can like face off against the bosses individually. So maybe that's what that was.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, definitely.
You want to know something that's pretty mind-blowing to think about though? Did you know in the original Final Fantasy VII like 1996 demo, the very first demo of the game, that I can't remember what game it appeared with, but the first demo of it was the bombing mission, and it had Cloud, Barret, and Aerith in the bombing mission.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so Aerith was in the very
in the beginning.
In the very beginning. So they're running through the Mako reactor, doing everything as normal, but Aerith is randomly in the party. It's super weird.
Interesting. Yeah, I was watching a Final Fantasy VII iceberg video. I don't know if you've seen any of those iceberg videos on YouTube at all, but it's kind of just like going like starting with basic knowledge, with like the tip of the iceberg, and kind of like more and more like maybe like not so well known facts about the game, and one of the things on there is when you are parachuting back into Midgar at the end of the game. They had planned to kill off every one of the characters except for your like your
Party
three main
three.
party, and it
was Nomura.
Man, what a different game.
It was Tetsuya Nomura that told everyone like, no, that we're not going to do that. Like, we need to keep everyone alive.
Oh man.
I think I was reading like an interview with him when him and like the other directors of FF7, there was like 3 or 4 of them in a room, and he was like mentioning that like, you were going to kill off all of the characters except Cloud and 2 others. Yeah. And they're like, wait, we were going to do that?
Yep.
I kind of think that could have been, I don't know. That could have been pretty cool though. In a sad way. In a weird way. It would almost give like a Final Fantasy VI, like World of Ruin feel to it, where like you get, conscious or whatever again, and it's just you, and you have to find the rest of your party. And I love stuff like that though. Like I love when the bad guy wins. I love when that's why spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't seen Final Fantasy VII, but the whole Aerith death scene, I'm gonna be so heartbroken if they do something in remake to kind of change that, because like I really feel like Aerith dying had so much impact on what came later in the story. And even at the end of remake, like when all these characters you thought died didn't really die, I'm like, I feel like that cheapens them a little bit much. You're
saying that and I'm getting chills.
I mean, like, I love me some Biggs and Wedge and Jesse and all of them, like they're great, but I'm like, part of what made them so awesome was their finite amount of time in the beginning, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Same with Zack. Same with Zack.
Dude, oh my gosh, that's gonna be, I don't know. I am hoping for the best for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, 3, 4, 5, however many they're going to make. but sadly, I'm expecting the worst.
Yeah.
You know, I am gonna buy it even if it's terrible. I'm gonna play it even if it's terrible. But you know, I don't want to just get myself so excited for something that I've been kind of in the back of my mind waiting for the past 20 years to just disappoint me. You know, hopefully, you know, knock on wood,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. But you know, geez.
Do you think it's actually a remake, or do you think it's a sequel to Advent Children? Have you heard those theories?
I haven't. You
want me to tell you?
I think that it's do it. Yeah, do it. It's been a long time since I've seen Advent Children, but I know once you start talking about it, it'll click back with me.
So there's a lot of theories that the only characters in Final Fantasy VII Remake who actually really are like in the meta and know what's going on is Sephiroth and Aerith. Both of them are like previous versions of themselves through the live stream, and somehow Sephiroth is like combined with the live stream. He's done something to change time, and that's where these ghosts are kind of like the fate ghosts or whatever are coming up, because from what someone was saying is like, imagine every time you play a video game over again and over again, and new game, like it's this world just cycling over again, over and over. And what if Sephiroth found a way to get out of that loop, and he's going into this new game, and that's why Sephiroth appears in the beginning. That's why Sephiroth is tampering with stuff. Not because he was there the whole time, but because this is a new Final Fantasy VII like replay. And this Sephiroth has been through Advent Children, been through OG7, and he's like, I know I die. I know all of this happens. I know Aerith saves the planet with Holy from Meteor. I'm going to change all of this time.
Wow.
It's kind of like a Back to the Future, like Back to the Future 2, essentially.
Dude, we just watched Back to the Future 2 like the other night.
Yeah.
And wow, what you just said is a lot to think about. Like a lot of like fourth wall type of like breaking, you know.
When you go through and play, if you go through and play like OG Remake again with that thought, like Sephiroth and Aerith are the only two who are not like really Sephiroth and Aerith in this game. They're like past, like they've been through this before kind of thing, and they're out of the meta. They know what's going on. It totally clicks, and you see why Sephiroth is doing what he's doing, because he's trying to like poke Cloud and poke the fates a little bit to like, if you go over a little bit over this way, maybe I won't die at the end kind of thing. Like when you drop the rock in the pond, the butterfly effect, you know? So
yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Imagine if they get to like part 2 or whatever, or 3 or whatever, one of the parts where something crazy, you know, typically would happen, like
summoning Meteor.
Jeez. Well, that, yeah. But even like, I don't know, like Junon firing their cannon into, what is it, Diamond Weapon? Or one of the weapons.
I think Sapphire, right?
Maybe it was Sapphire. I think you're right. Yeah, because he was blue, wasn't he? But just changing a huge part in the story, and that's kind of where like everybody realizes like, oh, this is a different game. Yeah. This is not, you know, I don't know. That might be, I don't know. I wouldn't be too keen on it. But it would be really interesting to play through it with like a different chain of events that happen, you know,
so
kind of a retelling.
So what if Final Fantasy VII Remake? It's not really a remake of Final Fantasy VII, but it's Sephiroth trying to remake his story.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
The more I read about this, the more I'm like, I mean, I'm not usually one to go down like fan theories or anything, but I'm like, there's when I went through and replayed Final Fantasy VII Remake again, I'm like, there is a lot of stuff sprinkled here that really feels like it connects like that.
That's interesting to think about. That's really interesting. I've never heard of that. Now I want to replay 7 remake.
Right? Because I mean, canonically, however the word is, it would go like OG7.
I'll accept it.
It would go like Crisis Core, OG7, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake, like in the whole timeline.
Right.
And the only one who's like been through all of it really is Sephiroth. So pretty much the story of all of this is Sephiroth's story.
Very, very interesting.
Right?
You've got my mind thinking.
It was really interesting reading through, like, it was like a book on Reddit, I swear, this guy posted, but it was just like, just imagine every time when we're talking about simulation theory and everything, but he's like, every time you load up that game you're going to play and you click brand new game, this whole world inside this video game is just starting all over again, and just everyone's kind of progressing as they normally would, but there's one character that is out of it, knows what's going on, and is there to, mess stuff up.
Yeah, that's almost like has kind of like a Bloodborne vibe, where you just continuously cycle through this never-ending loop.
New Game
pretty
Plus.
much, you know what I mean? Yeah, and even the I guess spoilers for anybody that hasn't played.
Spoiler alert.
The ending of Bloodborne, where it's like, you can like choose to
By Gehrman, or
like be reawoken, basically as like a new hunter, and and then your old body, the old hunter or whatever, turns into like Gehrman pretty much, and it's wild.
So
stuff like that really makes me really think, you know what I mean?
So I actually had a whole second playthrough of Bloodborne that I was playing on my PS4 out in the living room, and I actually literally just beat that last night.
So congrats. Nice.
So
nice.
I had to do the what was it, the moon presence and Gehrman again. So I technically didn't get any of the other two endings that I did on my like stream playthrough, because of course you want to fight the moon presence, but same thing, like beat it, credits rolled and everything. Oh my god, that game has like amazing music. Like I don't think I ever realized how good the music was when I was streaming, because I was like so focused into it.
Same, man.
But like New Game Plus started, everything happened, woke up, and I looked over at wifey, and I'm like, I have a feeling, like, what if the hunter's getting the blood transfusion and that knocks the hunter out, and then the rest of Bloodborne is just a nightmare. It's just he's sleeping and it's all a dream, it's all a nightmare. And then when he wakes up,
see it.
Kind of carries on about his day.
That's interesting. There's another game that's I think it's called We Happy Few, I think it's called We Happy Few, and it's kind of this weird, like, kind of a BioShock-y vibe, like a BioShock Infinite type of vibe. But I think it's the government gives everybody like happy pills type of thing, and your character stops taking those pills and they start to see what the world is actually like. And I think in one scene you go to a birthday party or something, and everybody's eating cake, diving in, and your pills start to wear off or something, and you notice that the cake is actually like pretty morbid, but like entrails and just like pretty intense stuff.
Interesting.
But yeah, kind of like a weird like facade that's I guess just over everybody's eyes in the world. It's a weird game. Yeah, We Happy Few, I think is what it's called.
I'm immediately intrigued. I love stuff like that and books like that and movies like that. I think stuff like that is super fascinating. Like that's a big reason why I love Black Mirror. Have you watched Black Mirror?
Yeah, I don't know if we've watched all of it, but we've watched most of it, and it's a trip.
It's a trip. And some of them, of course, are like better than others, but there's some where it's just so like you can just see the realities of like the world and like social media usage and like a rating system or.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yes, that was so wild.
Dude.
There's one of the on like the last season where they have like these little VR dots you can like put on your forehead, and it like transports you into this VR world, but like kind of what you were doing with like VR, but you have to like move around. But when they put this on, it like knocks them subconscious, and then they still feel and see the world, but they can like feel things and touch things. And
right, I feel like we've watched that one as well, and it's just a weird, almost uncomfortable thing to imagine. You know, it's very, very good to watch though.
it is. I love stuff like that. Like I love stuff that's just honest, and I don't know, like you can see the parallels in our world, you know, you can relate to what's going on. I remember I always tell everyone, like, if y'all have not seen Black Mirror, you should definitely watch it. It's like one of the best, most uncomfortable, but in a good way, in an eye-opening way kind of shows. I told my manager like years ago that she should watch it, and one night they were like cleaning the store. She had to stay there later with a coworker, and they watched the very first episode, which the first episode is probably the worst one. It's like this British prime minister has to do something with a pig.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like watching it in the back, and she's like, "Why are we watching this? Nick said this was amazing." And I'm like, "That's like the worst one to start on. Skip that one. Go to the next one." Yeah,
I heard that.
Oh man,
I caught that.
So yeah, if y'all are gonna watch Black Mirror, skip the first or watch the first episode, but the first episode's pretty intense. I guess totally back on like streaming conversation. See, this is honestly like the best part about doing the podcast with everyone, is like we pick a subject and just go down a huge rabbit hole for half an hour. I totally live for that. That's what's been the best part so far.
Dude, yeah.
On another side of like the streaming and like content creation stuff, if you could meet any streamer, who would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. All these have been very good questions, Zeph. You know, man. Okay, so for me, it's like I have to make a decision where, do I want to meet somebody that's, and is it just like one person, or is it?
It could be a couple. It could be like the ones you like want to meet, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want.
Yeah, so it's like, do I make a decision where, you know, I mean, obviously I want to meet like, you know, you and like Ryman and, you know, all these other awesome people I've met through Twitch, you know, but I feel like meeting, you know, you, just for this example, I feel like, you know, when you and I meet, it would be completely different from like if me and XQC or whoever met.
Big one.
You know, I think you and I meeting would be more like of a friendship type of like, yo, what's up?
Like
you
friends.
know? And yeah, meeting a big streamer,
like
I feel like
fan.
I would get really, yeah, kind of like meeting a celebrity type feeling where it's like I'm really like don't know what to say, you know, kind of anxious and I don't know, even if I were to meet like a huge streamer, I don't even know who I would meet.
Are there any like really big ones up there that you kind of keep an eye on every now and then?
I mean, I'll watch like the Sushi Dragon. The Sushi Dragon is one that I watch quite a bit. But the thing is I don't know if I would, and it's not like I don't want to meet him in person, but I don't know if I would like, I mean, what would we talk? I don't know what him and I would talk about type of thing. I don't really know his personal like interests or his, you know, where he came from. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would rather just meet like people like you or Ryman or, you know, people that I can really connect with on more of a level than, oh my God, you know, more like less fanboy and more like actual tangible relationships with people.
I hear Mr. White's pretty cool. I hear Zach's pretty cool.
He's pretty cool. You know, I I could bang up on the ceiling and he could hear me right now.
So who started streaming first? Were you streaming and then Mr. White came to it, or vice versa? You were?
Yeah, it was my 24-hour stream. I messaged him, or I texted him, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you get on Twitch at all, but I just made kind of a milestone, being an affiliate. I'm doing a stream for 24 hours, playing Final Fantasy VII. It would be cool if you came by and help keep me awake. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll I don't really get on Twitch much, but I'll get on and check it out for you. And he hopped on and he made an account and came in and chatted, and
now he's streaming.
Now he's streaming. Yep. Now he's an affiliate himself, and yeah, it's really really cool to see like where people start and their growth, and how they get there and their journey. It's really cool. It's really cool.
It really is. And I think what's so cool about like a very select kind of group of us is I feel like we all really do hang out in each other's streams so much, like if we go in Zach's stream or your stream, or like, Breezy's always there and Zach's always there and Moof's always there and Mr. White, and there's like a whole crew of people.
It's like a legit like community. Like you hear that word being thrown out so much on Twitch, or not thrown out, but thrown around on Twitch. And yeah, I mean, obviously there are some, pretty deep communities on Twitch, but I feel like this kind of community is very like
it's real. Yeah.
Very real.
I 1000% agree. That's like, I say it a million times, but seriously, meeting you, talking with you and Zach and so many people, I don't want to, I really feel like, especially people that I've known for like a whole year, like I've gone back with, like I always upload like my VODs and stuff to just like an archives YouTube channel. And I remember uploading one a few weeks ago of my Final Fantasy VIII playthrough, and it literally in the thumbnail, it said King Fink just followed, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, no way.
Yes,
dude.
yes, it was awesome.
I want to watch that, man. I want to watch that, because I'm not even, when I say this, I'm not even kidding, but there was, of course, a couple people that I watched that were kind of like, oh, okay, this would be cool. But seriously, you were the one that was like, okay, I'm doing this again. I'm doing it again, and I'm going to have a, sorry, excuse my French, but I'm going to have a fucking great time doing this. Oh, and you were the one, that kind of lit that fire under my ass, man. So it's, dude, yeah. I can't give you a hug, but
air hug. Hell yeah, dude. Hearing stuff like that is just, I don't even know what to say except just like huge thank yous, and honestly, like it's just, I don't even know. Like I never started streaming with the intention of just anything becoming full-time or anything money-wise. Like it was literally just wanting to play games, and I would tell most people, if y'all are gonna stream, do it because you want to make friendships and build relationships, and the games are just extra.
Definitely.
I went in just wanting to play games. Like I knew nothing about Twitch. There was just this cool game coming out that was remaking my favorite game of all time that I wanted to play. That was right around the corner, and I was like, it'd be cool to stream it. But like months after, I quickly realized like it's all about you and everybody, and just like every time, seriously, you pop in and just say like good morning, or just anybody pops in, I get so excited. Like legitimately, my friends, like we get to hang out every day and just catch up and chat.
Dude, yeah, it's not a lot of people can say that. Not a lot of people can say that, and I think it's really cool that you're going to be doing kind of like YouTube stuff, as far as like kind of tips and tricks and like maybe little mini tutorials on how to get started in streaming, because man, there's a lot of people that look up to you, man, and I feel like these tutorials or tips and tricks or whatever they're going to be called is going to just be that encouragement that somebody needs, to get started, to be like, okay, before I watched this, I was kind of apprehensive on streaming, but Zeph is making it very, very obtainable type of thing, very like I don't know, just doable, So I think that's a really, really cool thing that you're doing, man.
Honestly, talking to Zach a few weeks ago, he said something that like super stuck with me and I really loved. He said he kind of had more of the mindset of, if you want to do something, like literally just start doing it, like right now, just do it, just go for it, don't overthink it. And then as time goes on, you'll kind of fix things as you go and kind of make things better. But I feel like so many people sometimes just overthink things, or I'm super guilty of it. That's like, I have overthought YouTube to no extent, like off the wall.
Me too, man. And
it's like, you want to do it, but there's like so many voices in your head telling you all sorts of things, and it's like, you just gotta not listen to it. You don't listen to the voices in your head. Don't listen to the people saying, spend your time doing other things, 9 to 5, or
right,
whatever.
Right.
Like, just do what makes you happy. You really do only live once. Just go for it. Just be happy.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful thing to say, and so I agree. It's, if I wouldn't have done some of the things in my life, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in front of my computer talking to you. You know what I mean? So if you're going to do something, even if, chances are you may not make, your name may not be up in lights in Hollywood or whatever, just do it. Just do it. You're going to have a blast, even if you fall on your face and fail. Like, it's going to be a fun story to tell, for like, at the very least.
I totally agree. Something that kind of like really helped me a few weeks back with like actually really, really making the decision to leave my job was, this might be the corniest, funniest, just weirdest thing ever, but on Twitch how they have like those sound alerts you can like pay bits or whatever for and do the fart sounds or whatever. I had one up that was the like Shia LaBeouf doing the "just do it, make your dreams come true." That
yeah.
And no joke, I was on my computer for like half an hour, just literally replaying it and replaying it and replaying it.
Just
like,
do it.
Yes, like for like half an hour, and in my headphones. And then there was just a moment where I'm like, you know what? We really just got to do it. We just got to like make our dreams come true. But like, really,
yeah, there's no better way to say it.
I 1000% agree. So a couple other questions I want to get in before we do wrap up here in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do some rapid fire ones here.
Right. Quick. So actually, when I do plan on having the podcast go live probably 2 weeks from now. So this will start being like on Twitch in real time kind of thing. And then I'll probably open up chat towards the end for like last 20 minutes or so, and we'll do like chat questions.
That would be fun.
I feel like I didn't want to start live because already managing OBS, making sure we're recording the audio, talking, listening, questions. There's already a lot. But so a couple questions I do want to ask though is, who are 3 people off the top of your head that you think have been the most influential in your streaming journey? I know we kind of touched a little bit in earlier about it.
ZephyrsXP, Dark Outlaw, and Dodge on the Run. I think my biggest three, like, yeah, by far.
Huge shout out to Dodge on the Run. Literally one of the best human beings
for
on
real,
the planet.
man. Yeah,
I love Dodge. I don't know the other one. Dark Outlaw.
Yeah, Dark Outlaw. So that's so similar to how I stumbled upon yours. I was wanting to watch somebody play Final Fantasy VII, right? And dude, stumbled upon him, and that was like last year sometime, and that's the channel where the Elon Musk emote comes from.
Oh my goodness, yes. Best
And,
emote on Twitch, not even a question.
Oh my gosh, seriously, like I think that's my most used emote on Twitch.
Good.
Is that just like smoke, just I can't even do the face, but like the like raised eyebrow and like
Every time you post it, I just always giggle. I'm just like, yes, just always post it. It's so good.
But yeah, he was a big one, like that, you know, who I saw, you know, playing a game that I really liked, and you know, just loved his cadence and his attitude towards, you know, streaming. And yeah, and so he was you know, was a pretty big influence also.
Hell yeah. Dodge on the Run, Dark Outlaw. Zeph, I don't know about him. He's
And
a little
you.
sus.
And you.
He's a little sus. Watch out for him. So one of the last ones I do at least want to ask you, King, is was there a question I missed that you would have asked yourself if you were doing a podcast with yourself?
Oh geez. Let's see.
I know that one's a little bit out there, but
No, that's good. That's a good one. Maybe a question. And it's not that you had missed it or anything, but maybe a question, I guess an additional question would have been, gosh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe like, what motivates me most to stream, or I don't know, man. That's a really good one. Yeah, I guess I would probably just stick with that.
so what motivates you to stream? See how I dove into that one?
yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. So I think probably what motivates me the most to stream, it's got to circle back to when I was playing music, you know. I can't tell you how often I compare streaming to playing music. You know, you start out in a small band and you write songs just as you would. You know, you download OBS and build your scenes, get all your equipment and everything all ready. You finally get a gig going, you know, with your band. You play live in front of, you know, probably 2 people, you know, your best friend and your mother. And same with Twitch, you know, you might have 2 viewers or you might have nobody watching for the first however long, you know, but you keep writing these songs, you keep pumping out these gigs, and eventually people, you know, will start to notice you, still, you know, will start to recognize you and come in and make that connection with you. And I think the biggest part for me for streaming, I think, is probably like originality. Like, and again, that probably goes back to like music and things, but you know, on a local level, there may be, you know, some bands who don't use the best equipment or don't use like the best whatever, or do some sort of gimmick that is like unique to them, that maybe a huge signed band has been doing for however long. But down on the local level, you know, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's, and I hate thinking this even, but it's kind of like of course you're working together, but it's almost like a competition that's in the back. You know, you're all kind of fighting for a record label, or you're fighting to open up for this huge band that could, you know, get more people to watch you, type of thing. And, you know, I think, like I said, a big part of streaming for me is like originality. Like I want to try and do stuff on my stream that nobody, maybe not nobody, but nobody in our like small close-knit group of people are doing. You know, I want to be that person to do like the new cool thing, or maybe not even that, but like, how do I put, you know, just
When you hop in, you're like, whoa, what is going on?
What is this? Yeah, like you know, this is something that I don't normally see on Twitch. Like, what is going on? You know, like that's kind of what what I want my streams, I guess, to answer like one of your previous questions, is that's, I guess, what I want my stream to turn into is, you know, people come in and they're just mystified with what they see on screen or what they may hear, you know, just with like effects and things. And yeah, just make a cool place for people to come and chill out and vibe the night away, you know.
Dude, hell yeah. I mean, you honestly, and I'm not just saying this, you already got that. Like every time I pop in your stream, there's like something crazy or something really cool going on. I'm like, I don't like, one of my favorite ones is the guy typing and you have the green screen up on like his monitor. And it took me like 5 or 6 tries of like looking at that, like coming back to it, where I'm like, oh, it's a green screen on his monitor. Oh
yeah.
Dude, you got some really creative stuff. I love your setups,
movie
man.
magic. It's movie magic, my friend.
It is movie magic. So final question for you, King Fink. What does streaming mean to you?
What does streaming mean to me? Well, that has, I think, changed. If you were to maybe ask me a year ago, you know, I would say that streaming is just kind of something that I do and something that I, you know, don't ever plan on like making a priority or something. But if you were to ask me now, I would say that it's become a big part of my life, you know. And I just I don't know, it's the people, you know. You always hear, you know, people say, oh, I do it for the people, or do it for whatever, but it's a fact, man. Like I mentioned earlier, like I could easily just go chill on the couch, you know, next to Bree, all cuddled up playing game next to her. But
and Annie
I'm
and
choosing
Oliver
to be, yeah, I mean, of course, right? But like I'm, you know, choosing to do it. I don't know, for that, I guess, relationship with people, you know, like the money. What money, you know? It's like really, that doesn't matter, you know. The subs, the bits, the PayPal donations, like nothing weighs more than the friendship, I think. Like, I don't know, I don't know, if I had a choice, I would not make any money on Twitch and just purely be there for the relationship, the friendships, you know. Yeah.
So many people think streaming and they think XQC, Pokimane, Ludwig, like those huge streamers, and I'm sure they're making bank, but like you really don't even make money until you're probably like partner or close to partner. And even a lot of partners, like, I mean, are you really making a lot of money if you're making 1,000 or 2,000 a month? Like, you could go get a full-time job and make more than that, you know. And a lot of these streamers are working a lot more than 40 hours a week, you know. So yeah, it's right. I think if you go into streaming out of the gate hoping for fame, hoping for money, you're going to be really disappointed.
That is definitely the wrong reason. Yeah. Definitely.
But going into it to have fun, to be creative, to have a creative outlet, to make friends, to build relationships, to be a part of a growing community of like-minded individuals, like that is absolutely where the value is, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely special to have, for sure.
Absolutely. So, King, my man, where can our viewers and listeners connect with you online, my friend?
Well, I'm not very savvy with social media. And so really the only place that you can find me is either on Twitch when I go live, or in Discord if you want to ever send me a message or video chat like how we're doing right now.
And I will have links, everyone, for King's Twitch channel. It links down in the description below. But seriously, King Fink, Matt, thank you so much for hanging out, for chatting, for just vibing, for talking about Final Fantasy, talking about streaming, just talking about life, man. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, man. And again, thank you so much for, you know, for inviting me to be on your podcast. It was truly definitely a highlight to my week, and definitely an honor.
Hope to have you in the future, my friend. Like we mentioned earlier, this episode of the Zephcast is going to come out first on my Patreon account, which will be this coming Saturday. But next Saturday, it'll be available for everybody on the Zephcast YouTube channel. You all are amazing. King, you are amazing. Hope everyone has an amazing night. You everyone, and definitely be sure to give the video a like if you like this kind of content, and subscribe if you want to see more podcasts with creators and streamers and podcasters in the future. See you all in next week's episode, my friends. Much love.
Bye.